Welcome to the Ranchonomics Podcast, where we empower you to build a better ranch and transform your operations into a thriving business. I'm your host, John Haskell. Let's get started. Welcome to the Ranchonomics Podcast. I am here again today with Wally Olson. Last week, we talked about selling cattle and the different ways and mechanics of doing that. Today, we're going to talk about buying cattle. So we are recording this in October when markets are very, very high. It's 2025. The October feeder board has gone up, I believe, at least $130. Let's call it $140 since it started trading. So we are on an absolute tear here, and it's kind of interesting to see the types of prices people are paying for cattle. And over again, Wally and I preach that the price does not matter, the relationship matters. And we also have said multiple times, and we concluded our last podcast with this idea that marketing is literally one of the most important and transformational things you can do in your livestock business. We see people that are good at it and getting good at it really increase their profitability without significant increases in their direct costs or their overheads. So with that, Wally, welcome to the Ranchonomics Podcast. Let's get started.
Very good. You know, the one thing on buying cattle, you need to have a sell before you buy. You know, selling cattle is just creating cash flow so you can buy cattle that you've discovered that there's a profit in them. And so you need to understand that you need to have a sell, and then before you buy. And then you need to understand, what animals can you handle? Can you handle 150-pound calves? Can you handle 300-pound calves? What can you handle? And then the next thing is what you decide to buy, whatever's undervalued is you're working on the value of gain between different weight classes. And you just work through them and you find what to buy.
And you're talking in a stocker context when you say weight classes, you could be saying different age classes if we were talking about breeding stock, right?
That's correct.
Different pregnancy statuses, that sort of thing. Good.
That is absolutely correct. Everybody's worried about the market crash. One thing you need to be working on, things you can control. And one is how you sell and how you buy. You control that. It doesn't matter what the market is. You control that. And then the next thing is your costs. You've got to get your costs under control.
And I think, would we argue that includes your marketing costs as well?
That just includes all costs. It even includes, mom, the 3 kids and stuff,
That brand new Yukon out in the driveway?
Yep. Whatever, like I said, whatever, you just need to include everything. And one thing you need to, understand profitability. And these are some things that that Tulsa livestock market was yesterday. And if you bought if you had some 575-pound calves at your house, but if you had them and you decided to sell them and buy back a 375-pound calf, the margin there was $571. You understand what I'm saying? These are on the number ones. And the way I do business, I figure it costs $100 to start a calf. And then we're putting on 200 pounds of gain, and I figure it costs $1 to put on a pound of gain. Then you got interest, and then I got opportunity expenses. So of that $571, I got $557 worth of expenses in there, and with the $192 opportunity costs, I would do the deal. But if you go look at dropping down and buying a number 1 and 2, you understand what I'm saying, and use my marketing plan of, the average cost of number 1s and 1s and 2s. If you dropped down there, now your gross margin is $639. And what's interesting, your interest cost dropped by $10
because the purchase price went down.
And also the opportunity costs went down because the purchase costs went down. Now, depending on how you look at opportunity costs, whether it's profit or whatever, but just understand. But long story short, you add the opportunity cost with the excess profit, subtracting 522 from 639 comes to $284, which is a pretty good little deal. So you need to just do the math and understand what the relationships are. And as far as buying cattle, you need to understand the rules and culture of where you're at. I mean, it's, if you're buying cattle out of Florida, that's an entirely different deal than if you're buying them out of Billings, Montana, or Manhattan, Kansas, or Bassett, Nebraska. You just need to understand the rules and the culture of where you're at. And then, what I like to do is I like to put all costs on cattle, the cost of the cattle, the cost of the buying, and the freight. So when an animal hits my chute, they're equal. Do you understand what I'm saying there?
Yeah. So when we've done this, we basically do it as a total delivered cost. So,
yes.
So if I buy the calf 100 miles away or 500 miles away, they're equalized because I may pay less money for the calf 500 miles away, but I pay more trucking. So then they're both added together.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, do you do shots and everything onto the price of the calf, or do you do that after?
No, that's after. All I'm interested in is what did it cost to get that calf to that chute. You need to, if you're buying cattle, if you're doing the buying, and you're in the sale barns, you need to understand, like I said, the rules and the culture. And I have found that it is very beneficial for me to have somebody else do the buying. You understand what I'm saying? It just works out that way. My wife used to buy for us. She did a wonderful job, but for right now, the time and everything doesn't lend itself for me to sit in the sale barn.
You didn't have grandkids when she was buying at Joplin,
That's
did you?
correct. We didn't have grandkids, so. And and one thing, if you're going to use an order buyer, you need to go look at cattle with the order buyer. Wherever if you got to drive to Florida, you drive to Florida. Because every mess I've ever gotten in with an order buyer is I broke that rule. And so you go look at them. And matter of fact, right now, there's a 16-year-old kid that buys most of the cattle for us. So, and he started out, he couldn't even drive. So, but he is as good as they get.
And he actually did something great this summer at his dad's urging, which I really appreciated, which is he actually came out when we shipped those cattle.
That's
and
correct.
What's a lot of fun if you're a buyer is, okay, you buy them at, whatever weight, and then what do they look like 9 months in the future? And that's some pretty important feedback. Guys that are experienced know where they're going to go. They know what they're going to become. And I was really happy to see Eli this summer because that just really contributes to his ability to do a good job.
That's correct. And it humbled me up when I was ragging on him about an off-colored calf that we were going to have to eat. And when it walked on the truck, he had the privilege of me eating crow. So when you eat crow, make sure you eat it head first.
Turns out.
Yeah. No, it didn't get cut off. So
good. Yeah. Quick shout out to the Hoppings and the Tahlequah Sale Barn because they have done a good job for us.
And Tulsa.
And Tulsa. Yeah, sorry, Tulsa. Yes.
Yeah. Well, Tahlequah and Tulsa.
Tahlequah and Tulsa. Yeah.
That's basically, all there is to, buying cattle. You got to understand climatic differences. Like especially, if you're moving cattle from Arizona, New Mexico, the desert where it's hot and dry, there's no pathogens because it's so hot and dry. And you move them into Northeast Oklahoma into a grow yard where it's got every bug in the world in it, you better expect problems, But if you're moving from Florida this way where it's, humidity, I've discovered makes a huge difference.
So let's talk some generalities there. We see cattle that do fairly well if we are moving down in humidity, which generally means west to east, right? If they're moving up in forage quality, so they're going from a lower quality forage area to a higher quality forage area. And we want to be my background with Fred Provenza says we want to be super careful with poisonous plants. So if we are moving into an area like Nevada, Northeast Nevada in particular, where you have a pretty significant population of some poisonous plants, Utah is the same way, Arizona can be, you want to be very, very careful that those animals don't get themselves into trouble. I-35 and endophyte infected tall fescue is another one that we are very careful about. Moving from west of did I say 25? I meant 35. Moving from west of I-35 into east of I-35, you're doing a couple of things there. You're moving into an area with endophyte infected fescue, which can be a problem. You're moving to a lower quality forage, and you're moving to a higher humidity level generally. So we want to be pretty careful if we're going to do that.
That's correct.
Okay. Are there any other general rules?
So, basically, is you haul them from the southeast to the northwest. I mean, and the reason there is the soil quality in the southeast is just lower in minerals and stuff. As you come down from the northwest, it's just less weathered soils up there and stuff. Now, granted, there's selenium and different things you got to be concerned with, and I guarantee you, if you are in the northwest, you used to working with ranch calves, and you see how cheap calves are in the south, and you buy, and you think you're going to get rich buying them suckers. I promise you, only buy one load, because you are going to go on a learning curve that's very, very steep.
You are fixing to get an education, as they say.
You're fixing to get an education, yes.
Good. All right. What else about when we're buying?
Basically, that is it. Just sit down and decide what you can pay. Have you a barn card?
Yeah.
And
if you're give us a quick. This has actually come up recently some too. Give me a little idea of how you create a barn card.
I create a barn card.
How about we talk about how one should create a barn card?
Okay, that's
do as
better.
I say, not as I do.
Yes, one of the best things to do is Nelson Kane has the value gain website. Go on there and learn how to run that. But basically, the value of barn card is you just take what you sell and you put the cost of gain in there.
And your cost of gain includes your opportunity cost or your break profit. Okay, yeah.
And you just figure out what you can pay for those calves. That's what you do. It's just
okay. So yeah, let's jump in a little more specific. So I have a sell price. Let's just say right now I'm selling a calf for $2,000, and I don't care what the weight is. It's bigger, but I'm selling a bigger calf, and I'm going to buy back to a smaller calf right now, and I can buy back a smaller calf for $1,500. But it's going to cost me $200 to turn the smaller calf into the bigger calf, right? So I have $500 gross income. I have $200 of cost to convert it back to what it was. And so and that includes a 10% opportunity cost or a 10% profit of some kind. And so then I would refigure the weight of the smaller calf based on the purchase price plus the cost of gain that it's going to take me to make those two equal. And then I'm going to divide by the number of pounds. Is that fair?
That's fair. And that's what a barn card is.
Perfect. So let's just say that I sell a $2,000 5-weight and I'm buying a $1,500 4-weight, and it costs me $200 to get there. So I'm going to take $1,700, which is the purchase price, $1,500 plus the cost of gain, which is $200, and I'm going to divide that $1,700 by the 400 pounds to determine what I can pay. Is that right? So that in this example, that would be $4.25. That would include a 10% profit that I've added into my cost of gain.
That's correct.
Okay, great.
And just basically doing the cattle square.
Yep. You're doing it, but you're kind of running it backwards, and then you're making sure you include that profit in your cost of gain. Okay, good. Really good. Okay, what else on buying?
That's basically it.
Do you focus on buying on video auctions? Do you focus on buying in the country? Do you focus on buying at sale barns? What do you do there and why?
We focus on buying them one at a time and selling them a potload at a time. My business is packaging, is what it is.
Packaging and what else? Because you use a lot of geography also. You're not moving them from sale barn to sale barn, for example, but you are moving them from a region to another, right?
One of the big thing is during the winter we're trading cattle. You understand what I'm saying? What we're doing is right now, what we're doing is we're weaning calves for people, and we're getting ready to trade our first round for this fall, and we'll trade maybe 1 or 2 more rounds, and then we will start buying our summer grass cattle, and we buy them in the South, but good enough that we can sell them off the Flint Hills of Kansas, where there's just a better. There's just a selling them out of Flint Hills, Kansas is
it's a good address.
Good address, and we're just moving them into that good address, and it's worked very well for us.
Good. And one thing I think a lot of people need to pay attention to, if you live in a sale barn dense area where you might have, when I lived in East Texas, we had, what was it, like 7 or 8 barns within a 45-mile radius. Like, it was a ridiculous number. And each of those barns would sell, thousands a week. What you sometimes will see is there are some barns literally right in, even in the same town, that are better to sell at and some that are better to buy at. And moving to a better address is always helpful. In the state of California, coastie cattle have a terrible reputation. Interior cattle have a good reputation. I think in Missouri, there's kind of a north-south trend, right? Kansas has the same north-south type trend. You want to be paying attention to those places for whatever reason. Sometimes it's geography. Sometimes it's literally just the style and the personality of the owner of the sale barn. You want to be moving those from buy them in a good place to buy, where they may be naturally undervalued, and sell them in a good place to sell.
That's correct. Another really good trade is buy them in Kansas, buy them in northern Kansas, and move them to central Nebraska and put them in a pot load and sell them in Nebraska at Nebraska prices.
Yep. Very, very true. And again, we're not talking about, there are people in the South, I've noticed, who literally will go to one sale barn on Tuesday and haul them across town or state or whatever to another sale barn. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about buying them, straightening them, doing what we need to do to make them good cattle to sell that preserve our reputation, and then selling them at a good location.
That's correct. And we're basically, like I said, we're in the service business. We're helping people out that don't like to start calves and package calves and all the above.
Yep. And with lots of these things, what I am very proud of is the fact that we are often selling to the same people again and again. So the product is as advertised, the product is quality, the product works for the next guy. We are very customer centered especially on the selling side. And we're looking for that same thing on the buyer side. I am looking for a customer-centered seller as a buyer.
And be very honest with what you are selling. I don't expect number one Nebraska black calf prices, because that is not what I have.
That's not what you got. Yeah.
That's not what I got.
So. Right. Love it. All right. Any thoughts on contracting as a seller? Or, excuse me, as a buyer?
I mean, if it works, do it.
And again, there, especially for people that need to put together significant numbers. So we deal with some Northern Plains grazers who are trying to buy through the fall. They're trying to put together, hundreds or thousands. Contracting can be a great option because it can help you spread that purchase over a larger window of time, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Very good. Wally, thank you. Always a pleasure to have you on. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to do this. I know you're terribly, terribly busy right now, so it's a big imposition. But what were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say one thing. It goes, the selling and the buying. You've got to learn how to market.
Yeah, good.
That is knowing Bud Williams. I don't know how many dollars it's been worth to me, but it is a staggering amount of money.
It's potloads.
Yeah.
Boatloads even. Yes.
Boatloads. It's just you just got, one thing is what I'm really, especially now, is people that have been to my marketing schools. I've talked to 3 or 4 of them in the last few days, and they are whining about taxes. They're going to call John Haskell because we got to do something about those taxes. And yes, you do.
And we can make a plan, right?
And we can make a plan.
But that plan starts with being very profitable, and then we will manage taxes. We don't start by not being profitable.
Yep.
Okay. One last quick reminder with regards to that. I want to remind everyone, I've said this multiple times, you could almost, we are in the time when a blind squirrel can find a nut. If you're finding yourself very, very profitable now, please don't be cocky. Please don't let it affect your spending. Don't let it affect your self-image, because The market has handed us an absolute gift. Now, if you're in the stocker business and you're trying to buy back right now, I feel for you. Same thing. Don't let that impact your self-worth. But we've had the timing of this year's run has been pretty good from a market perspective. It has really added some air beneath our wings for most people. Please keep things in mind. Stay focused on the relationships. Try not to focus on the price, because the price will absolutely blow your mind right now.
And get educated.
Yep. Great time if you've got a little extra cash to spend money on education. All right, so let's talk about that. Ranching.fyi, they're doing sell-by marketing schools, and they're teaching using a sim platform. You want to talk about that at all?
Basically, what the sim platform is it goes through. We've been blessed with getting a really good computer program that they can change variables in it, and it's about as real world as you can make it. Like I said, Olson Ranch LLC Marketing School is like a Model T going down the road, and the Ranching.fyi sim with what Cinnamon and Nelson and Brian Munger has done is just like a Lamborghini. I promise you, it is good.
Pretty cool. And then we also, a couple of quick things, Ranch Right, we have a webinar every month except February on the third Thursday of the month. There are recordings. You can attend those live. That's at 2:00 Mountain. You can check out our social to find that. We also have a YouTube channel where we have talked a lot about sell-by marketing in video format there that are recorded. You can watch there. Wally and I, Walter and I, a number of us have talked through those. That is on our YouTube channel. If you would subscribe to that, subscribe to the podcast, we will keep things coming towards you. And Ranching.fyi, the forums, has a Monday morning market pulse at 6:30 a.m. Mountain. That is a weekly kind of discussion. We usually have about 50 or so people in there. Wally is there to talk about the markets, to answer questions people have on sell-by marketing. Great opportunity to get educated. So excellent. Anything else, Wally?
Nope, that's it.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks.
Very good.
Thank you for tuning into the Ranchnomics podcast. We hope this episode helped you win today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with a friend.